For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
The violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber, and today I'm joined by two guests with a breaking story you guys probably haven't heard yet. I'm joined with Rick Adante, who's seen before. He's a whistleblower on DEI on our college campuses. He did a lot of work with James O'Keefe, but he's got a lot more work to do. We're going to get back to his story here shortly, but also with Chandler, and I should ask you again how to pronounce your last name. Is it Langevin?
Yeah, Langevin.
Langevin. Well, I was sort of close. If you could, both kind of give a quick introduction, and then we got one other story I want to at least touch on, and we're going to get right into what happened last night in Florida.
Yeah, so my name's Chandler Langevin. I'm a city councilman in the great city of Palm Bay here in Central Florida on the Space Coast, and I'm a conservative and a patriot, and I was elected in November. I'm a Navy corpsman. I'm a veteran, and just trying to make America a better country.
Well, that's awesome. And actually, I've been reading through all this, and somehow I missed you were in Palm Bay. I used to spend a lot of time there when I lived in Florida. I had a couple good friends that lived in the area, and believe it or not, one of them lived next door to Eddie Money before he passed away, because he was over there in your area. And then, Rick, if you could just give a quick refresher to the audience, and then we're going to jump right into this.
Yeah, hey guys, Dr. Rick Adante, tenured professor in neuroscience and psychology, NASA mission crew member, whistleblower and undercover reporter for James O'Keefe at Florida Tech, caught the president defrauding DeSantis and Trump for millions of dollars on DEI, and also hitting up the Pentagon now for their defrauding of the soldiers and indoctrination. So, yeah, strong America.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to that here in just a little bit because it's also a very important story. First thing, though, I do want to touch on this because this is big news. It's making headlines everywhere right this second. But last night, well, let me just go. Conservative journalist Nick Sorter arrested by woke Portland police. Now, most news outlets are reporting this, that he was arrested for disorderly conduct. However, there are a few that also say assault charges. I think the disorderly conduct is what's correct there. But, I mean, this is an absolute embarrassment. I didn't know they arrested anybody in Portland, but I guess, I mean, they obviously didn't with the Katie Davenport. I'm sure all you guys saw that video of her getting smacked in the face with the flagpole and then chasing down the lady that did it. But the police refused to do anything about it. Well, Nick last night, he got mobbed and attacked. Luckily, there's video of it. He did push back at some point, but again, it's very clear he was assaulted first. Now they're also saying it was, maybe it was because he put out they were burning an American flag and he stamped that out. So some people are speculating that's why he was arrested. But it seems like, okay, so it's illegal for public fires both in Portland and in Oregon without a permit, especially in the city. So I don't know how him putting out the fire could be disorderly conduct, but then again, I'm not a demented Portland lawyer or a city council official or a police officer for that matter. So maybe I just don't understand exactly what's going on here. But again, this seems to be a just yet another perversion of the law. Any thoughts on this, gentlemen? And then I want to get into your story here.
It seems like the real story there is that there was somebody in Portland, maybe a detective, who found out where they stashed their handcuffs, because apparently they've been lost for the last 7 or 8 years, and they haven't been able to arrest anybody. But we had promises from President Trump and Attorney General Bondi not too long ago. It was only like a whisper ago, maybe a second or two ago. It seems like that they were sending federal troops to make sure that our citizens like that are protected. And so, why did that happen? That's no longer a woke Portland issue. This is a DOJ issue. Why did they allow this to happen?
Agreed. Yeah, and to your further to your point, we've seen a very, very small number of arrests. I really expected it to ramp up over the weekend once these troops were deployed. There were a few arrests the first few days they were out there. There were a couple last week on, I think, Wednesday and Thursday in Portland and Eugene, and then a couple in Chicago. But again, they're still allowing these guys to rule the streets and basically do whatever they want. And until that changes, until a message is sent that you can't go out, harass reporters, attack ICE officers, pretend to be a human traffic cone, or anything else, like, it's just going to continue, and it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better. But if we actually had a show of force, maybe we could scare these wackos back into their mental institutions. But until there's like a real effort on that, it is not going to change. I mean, right now we're sending the message that this behavior is acceptable. We already know the law enforcement in these woke cities is completely corrupted. They're out there to protect Antifa, the Hamas wing of the Democrat Party, and the rest of these blue-haired moonbats. So until something's done at the federal level, expect more of this. Expect more reporters assaulted. And apparently, if you have the gall to try to defend yourself, then you're going to jail. And this is just, again, a perversion of justice. Sorry.
Chandler's an elected official here. He just led a march against left-wing evil 2 weeks ago here in town, and he coordinated the safe, peaceful protection from the city council, the police department, and for all the citizens here. So Chandler knows something or two about making sure that the peace can be ensured and protected. So, I mean, what do you make of all that?
Yeah, well, it comes down to the leadership in the city, right? And so that's the difference between Oregon and Portland and Florida and some of our conservative cities here. All it took was for one councilman, myself in this case, to sit down with the city manager and the police chief briefly. And at first I said, I don't need anything. I had my own security. You'll see in the pictures. I thought everything would be fine, but it's a protest and tensions were high. So the police were like, no, we're going to support you. We're going to make sure it's good. So we had a meeting real quick. And we met actually before that, because a few months ago, there was the No Kings protests around the country. Right. And so we obviously had a big one in our community. And I met with the police chief and I said, look, everyone has a First Amendment. Even the people I don't like have a First Amendment. That's awesome. But just remember, this is Florida. The second one of them steps out in the road, the second it becomes violent, he was like, Councilman, I got it 100%. And we did. And they tried a couple little times to walk out in the crosswalk when it was, the walking man and kind of make a little show. And the police were like, no, get back on the sidewalk. We're not even doing that. Then there was no issues. And then same thing with my march. It was fine. It was peaceful. Everyone got on great. There was a couple little counter protesters, but they knew that there was going to be law and order. And so they didn't come out in force and try to cause chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and down there in Florida, again, it's as much for their protection as it is the cities. I mean, the law down there is you step out and block traffic, you're a street pizza. And, that's the kind of legislation that we need everywhere, so they can't just hold cities hostage. Again, not to get too far off topic here, but on October 7th, coming up in just a few days, in 4 days in Chicago, they're planning citywide protests all over the place in support of Hamas. And part of their plan is literally to shut down traffic across the city and make it unbearable. And up there, that's going to be allowed. In Florida, that's not going to happen. Like you said, people have a First Amendment right. And even if it's something I hate, if they're not blocking traffic, they're not creating other problems, I don't care what these idiots want to do. Because right now, again, it's only hurting them more. It's not exactly rallying the troops around them. So I don't care if they want to be peaceful off to the side of the road, out there yell and scream about whatever. But they've got to follow the rules, and they can't be harming other people, blocking traffic, shutting down cities, and any of this other nonsense they've been allowed to get away with for the last 10 years. But I want to kind of set up your story first with what I assume kind of led into part of what's been going on down there over the last several weeks and months. Excuse me. Companies must now pay $100,000 to import high-skilled foreign workers under Trump's H-1B overhaul. And again, I think this is largely a good thing, especially as more people are learning about how this program has been abused, especially by the tech industry, for, I don't know, time immemorial, apparently, where they will be technically compliant with the way the rules are supposed to work. So H-1B visa program is normally for higher skilled employees or potential employees if you're not able to find an American to do the job. And in some industries, this does make sense where there's a shortage either due to education or just the current need that we don't have enough people coming out of our schools with the skills to fill that position. And again, that's the intent of this. However, a lot of the tech companies were posting ads in, say, like non-English newspapers with a circulation of 500 recipients and pretending that was compliant with the law, so they can then go hire workers primarily from India at lower wages. So it's depressing the wage across the industry, and they're bringing in foreign workers at a discount that they have an undue amount of control over because their visa hinges on their employment. So they can pay them below market wages. They get the same labor for less money, and they have total control of the people. And like, I know some people personally that are here for jobs, again, probably for ones that are more legitimate than a lot of what we're talking about with the H-1B. Like one person that had, she has both the background as a medical professional and programming. They brought her in to help set up some of these computer systems at hospitals, make them whatever software the local hospital is using communicate correctly through whatever the coding system is for the federal government and whatnot. So somebody like her needed multiple backgrounds, but they were paying her. There were only 3 or 4 other people doing this job throughout the entire country that had her exact skill set, and she was getting just a little over half, I guess just under 2/3 of what the American employees were getting to do the same job, and they were laughing all the way to the bank about it. And again, she talked to them about it, but there's nothing she can do. She's under this work visa. She's trying to get citizenship here. So until this was resolved, they're just going to be able to continue to abuse her. So, I mean, this is something that's hurting people on both sides of the equation. But you specifically spoke out about what's going on down there. Palm Bay Council targets conservative member after anti-immigration posts. Well, these weren't anti-immigration posts, but can you give us the background on your story? And then we've got a bunch of big updates.
Yeah, and like you said, it plays into a lot of what you were just talking about. I think I started making some of those posts around the same time that we started to look at H-1Bs as a country. And quite frankly, I don't think we went far enough as a nation. I think it's taken too long. And we kind of found out why. But to not go too deep into that yet, it's just, what's happening is there's kind of this Marxist revolution, this color revolution happening in the United States, right, from the left.
Yes.
And what they're doing is, in order to affect their revolution, they're having to sow discord and chaos and all these other things. And so immigration plays a large part into that, both illegal and legal. The illegal immigration is pretty obvious. You flood the border with hopefully future voters, but also you bring in criminals that can sow chaos and they can sell drugs. And then you have other guys that come and they take blue collar jobs, and then you sell the drugs to the depressed blue collar Americans, and then they go down. But then from the legal immigration side, they're coming in to take white collar jobs. And a lot of these are good people that are coming in. They're just taking advantage of a system that is working for them. And I don't blame them for that at all. So that was kind of some of the miscommunication with the Indian community that I had. They're mostly good people. I met a lot of them. But the problem is the left is kind of using them to flood them into areas, to cause divisiveness, to flood them in so fast into an area that they don't have an opportunity to assimilate. So then it kind of gets people like us aggravated. And then it sows more discord and divisiveness. And then they get enough of a block that they can vote for those Marxists to get into office and effectuate more power at the state level. And so that's why it's such an important issue all the way down to the local level, because we're seeing it. We're not necessarily seeing Palm Bay turn into like Dallas right now. We do have quite a few, businesses and hotels and things that are owned by the Indian community. But I've met multiple constituents who work in the IT field or the Space Coast, or who have a computer science degree and should be working in the IT field, and they just literally can't. They get through the hiring process, they get to the end, they do their first face-to-face interview, and it's clear that they're a white dude and they're asking for a normal wage or what it should be a wage in that industry. And then boom. And I have a lot of guys who have been in the field for a while, so they're kind of grandfathered in, but they're telling me how the field is going right now, and it's not going in a good direction. And then I have other residents who have moved here from like the Dallas-Fort Worth area and stuff like that, who are telling me like it's getting bad. They're just flooding in. They're changing the culture, this and that. And again, like it's really not their fault. They're just taking advantage of an opportunity that we provide. It's our fault. So we need to fix the issue. And unfortunately, you might offend or aggravate some people in the process, but you don't get change without discomfort. It's just like if you want to go to the gym and get big, you got to make your muscles sore first for them to get bigger. Well, any type of change is going to come with some sort of discomfort. And unfortunately, that's not what people want to hear right now.
Well, yeah, much to your point. Yeah. Well, much to your point, like, I don't blame them. If I were from another country and I had this incredible opportunity, I would try to do whatever I could to take advantage of that as well. The problem is the net effect on Americans, that it's putting us at a disadvantage, and we need to have American first values and American first policies on every issue. We have to look out for ourselves before we're trying to help the world. And if we don't, eventually, we're going to pay the price. Well, we're already paying the price for that. But also, something else I noticed is with this headline from your local papers down there, they cast this as anti-immigrant. And again, that's not the point. I mean, this is, you're not being anti-immigrant. You're not being anti-Indian or anything else like they're trying to portray you. But they don't have a leg to stand on in this argument. They all know what's going on. So rather than discuss the real problem, they deflect and try to just defame you personally over this.
Well, yeah, and so the other thing that they did is he posted about people from another country. In that case, Indians. He didn't even address Indian Americans. He didn't address Americans of Indian heritage. It'd be like if he was referring to the Russians. Nobody would have problems with the Russians or whatever. Like they do what they normally do is they twist it. And I actually spoke at the City Hall meeting yesterday, which he can tell you about what was shaken out on that. But first of all, it was a mob scene. I've never seen anything like it in my life. But when I spoke, I said, I see this as a professor, as students, people get worked up because they think they read something and they jump to a conclusion because it elicited a visceral emotional response, and they don't take a second to reread what they run to the bank thinking that it said one thing and it didn't say another, much akin to the very famous Fine People hoax that we all know about.
Oh, exactly. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. This was the result of the meeting last night. Now, I've got a couple videos to play. We'll get to those here shortly. But a councilman removed from Odyssey Charter School Board over anti-Indian American remarks. And again, nothing could be further from the truth. But again, that's how it's that's how it's portrayed to the public. And now you were telling me, now the way it works down there in Florida, the only way he can be removed from his seat now is if Ron DeSantis signs off on it. So it's headed up to his desk. So we need to make some noise about this to make sure Ron makes the right decision here.
Yeah. I mean, I'd appreciate that. I'm not backing down. They asked me to resign, and you might see the video later. I told the town, Sam, I'm working for Americans. It's like, if you're working for Americans, and you have Americans every day, you're meeting new Americans every day, and they're telling you this is what they're concerned about, and it's a recurring issue, it should be brought up. And quite frankly, social media, some of the councilmen are like, well, earlier in my career in the past 2 months, were like, well, why don't you just get off social media? And it's like, well, that's the public square right now, right?
Yes.
We used to have little walkable towns and you could go stand in the market and you could talk and give speeches. Now we have X, and it's awesome. People from around the world. I met a lot of good people. I met local people. But actually, I met Dr. Dante. He followed me on X first to send me a message, right? He's like, hey, I live in your town. So this is how we get to have awesome discourse. We get to meet really great people. And theoretically, you should be able to post controversial topics or even course topics and differences of opinions. And we should be able to debate those. And of course, if you're two normal people, which unfortunately nowadays normally means conservative, then you will have some nice civil debate. But what's happening is these Marxists and these leftists, they just like lose their mind over an idea that goes against their color revolution. And so really what this boiled down to last night is it was a visceral reaction from kind of the American of Indian heritage community. But it was spurred on, and it really was an attack by the left. It was a left-wing media source that took the tweet, that clipped what I was responding to and kind of changed the context, that sent it out, that rallied the forces. And there was more leftists and crazy Marxists speaking at the meeting than there actually was Americans of Indian heritage. So that's what we're looking at here. And we need to be able to have that town square where we can talk. So, yeah, I would encourage you to reach out to the governor, because if we can just get removed because we tweet or say something that offends somebody, we're just as bad as Great Britain.
Yeah.
Well, and I would add too, I was there. I was there as a witness. So what Chandler isn't saying about the context. So Chandler was subjected to approximately 6-hour communist struggle session that I've never seen with my eyes in my life. It is public. It is on YouTube. It's like a 6-hour clip. And you can watch. If you want to see what a communist struggle session looks like, you can go watch this whole clip. It was for 6 hours. Now, incidentally, I wasn't there for the beginning part because it turns out that they had some borders to the room that had a maximum capacity. And we weren't all just allowed to rush the borders of their doors and walls. And we had to wait our turn in line, as it turns out. I almost wanted to ask for an H-1B ticket in.
Yeah.
But the point is, he got subjected to something that Americans have almost never been subjected to, which is a struggle session, as it happened on his birthday, of hundreds and hundreds of people talking shit to his face, calling him the most awful things: a Klansman, a cross burner, a racist, a hateful person. All these lies of absolute leftist garbage that I watched with my own eyes and ears as I was allowed eventually by standing my turn in line to immigrate into the room. I watched. They were just straight up lies. And the biggest and worst part about it wasn't the mob that looked like they were chanting Barabbas, 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 crucify him, crucify him, crucify him, demanding that he be held accountable for his political speech as a politician on a political topic, but that they didn't want to vote him out in the American way of the process of the ballot box, but they wanted to go like a mob and demand his head on a spit. The worst part was that the Republican city council, it is a Republican city council in a Republican city that is led by a so-called Republican mayor that acted like the wokest fillator of AOC. And it was awful. And if you run that clip, eventually one of them showed up with an Indian flag around his neck, not an American, an Indian flag in Ward County. Now they're going to send this, and they called the Republican Rhino mayor, ended the meeting pretending to be MLK, demanding that a Republican, Chandler, be deported from the city council. That's how much of an abject clown show that we were subjected to of a struggle session. And he's going to put Ron DeSantis in a box and say, do what I tell you. You go, Ron, start deporting Republicans in Florida for advocating for immigration reform and pro-America policies. That should be a call to arms to Ron, to his staff, to every Republican in Florida, because the people they've marshaled to their side, Rick Scott, Debbie Mayfield, they're local, weak, milquetoast, 2012 Romney Republicans. And that has to end. It has to end if we are to keep our country.
Oh, exactly. I'm getting that video set up of this. I've got on screen right now is what the deputy mayor that was in there wearing the flag. And sorry, you guys are going to have to give me just a second. I've got the speech set up, but I want to get to one other thing here first. Sorry, having an issue with something else at the moment. 1 second. There we go.
Truly, I've never seen anything like this. I texted my wife and I spoke. I said, this is like Barabbas, Barabbas, Barabbas. For those of you guys who don't know, That is from the gospel, from the Passion, when the people demanded Christ be crucified and give the murdering convict Barabbas out for instead. They were demanding it. They were demanding blood. And there are people, you may have a clip of it, who was up there, and their premise was Charlie Kirk is burning in hell. Make Chandler do the same.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to. When we'll get to that clip here shortly, because again, that's absolutely disgusting. And but the fact of the matter is, you tried to have a talk in the public square. You tried to go out and address this. This is the same thing that did happen to Charlie Kirk. The left can't behave rationally. They can't argue their ideas on the merit. So instead, they turn to violence because they know the minute that, again, if the media portrayed what you were saying and doing honestly, instead of putting it up there like this, saying that you're a cancer that needs to be removed. Instead, we could talk about
violence. That's
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can't have a discussion. Their points are indefensible. If they portrayed you honestly, people would be on your side, but instead they flame tensions. They make it sound like you're anti-Indian to stir up the Indians, everyone of Indian descent or the Indians living in the area. And they try to paint you as just some kind of racist instead of going with, hey, this is a problem. We need to be putting Americans first. This H-1B visa program is being abused. And it doesn't mean automatically everybody that's here is going to suddenly get deported. It just means we want to correct the problem going forward so this can't happen again. And I mean, these guys got to know this H-1B visas at $100,000 a pop. They better be able to provide some real value for their company anyway, or they're not being renewed. But let's go ahead and pull this disgusting video, this first one from the Palm Bay mayor trying to go full MLK, and then we'll get your comments.
And I end with this before the close. In closing, I hope that the governor deports you out of these chambers and out of that door.
Well, you weren't kidding about going MLK. I hadn't watched that yet. What's that?
His name is Rob Medina. He pretends to be a Republican.
By the way, everyone cheering in the background was not a Republican.
They weren't even from town. They got shipped in from Cocoa Beach, from Melbourne. They came from everywhere else.
Miami, Winter Park.
Yeah.
Well, all the ones that are here on H-1B visas, they can't vote anyway. So, if you're not
show up as a mob, because you can't vote, because you show up like a mob with pitchforks and torches. Yeah,
you try to overrule democracy. And again, it's the same thing we've seen. You threaten people to get what you want. That's all the left is able to do anymore, but we're just not going to stand for it. So, we need to make sure Ron DeSantis knows exactly what's going on here, knows to keep you on the city council, and not bow to this kind of pressure from outside forces. Guys, we do need to take a quick break here from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with more.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jase case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With the Jase case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to Jase.com now and get your own Jase case.
All right, guys, thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on X America News is by supporting our sponsors. I would like to strongly encourage you guys to go to jace.com or jacemedical.com. Pick up a Jace case for yourself and your family. This isn't a Band-Aid kit or a boo-boo box. This contains antibiotics, non-narcotic pain relievers, steroids, and other prescription medication that could be necessary or even life-saving during the time of a real emergency, whether that's because help isn't on the way, we're in a full-on economic collapse, or I don't know, a civil war, or China just decides to cut off our drug supply. But this is something they can they can tailor it to your needs. So if you do have a family member or you're allergic to something that's in there, they can swap that out for a different medication. They have a variety of other kits on their website as well that are tailored to specific types of illnesses or threats you might face. Maybe you've got somebody with a lot of allergies or UTI. Maybe you want to do a parasite cleanse. They also offer supplies from 1 month to 1 year of medication that you're taking every day. That way, again, you have medicine on hand in case our supply is cut off by China and we still don't have, factories spun up here to produce all the drugs that we need. So again, go to jace.com or jacemedical.com to use code INSURRECTION. You'll get an additional discount, and it's a great way to support our program and all the great programs here on X America News. All right, I actually had a change of plans during the break, so we're going to actually play your response here, and then we're going to get back to the discussion. Sound good?
Yeah.
So set this
All
up for you. They heard everybody talk shit on him at the struggle session for 6 hours, and they said, okay, we're going to give you your chance to speak, and do you want it? And he said yes, and they asked him to bend the knee. They asked him to turn around and cuck. They asked him to disown everything he said about pro-America immigration policies in the face of, it wasn't 2 weeks ago that Jay Collins and Ron DeSantis had to go chase down the truck driver who killed Floridians.
Yeah.
Who was on it, who had immigration. So they asked him to disown everything, which is the tweet he said was quoting Charlie Kirk. So they gave him the floor, and this is what he said.
All right. Well, real quick, and remember that truck driver too couldn't speak English, failed that part of the exam, could only identify one U.S. road sign, and California still gave him his license. Now, luckily, we do have some other states starting to crack down on that. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Oklahoma or Nebraska, just went through and eliminated 130 CDLs that were given to people that were not able to really pass the test. But all right, let's get into this because, yes, again, this is a problem and it's systemic of others.
That's the different guy.
Good evening, Parker Allen, 198 Knight Street, Palm Bay. 9 days before he was sent to burn in hell for eternity, Charlie Kirk tweeted, quote, "America does not need more visas for people from India. Perhaps no form of legal immigration has so displaced Americans."
And I end with this before the close.
Sorry about that. Well, wrong video, and that's about enough of that.
That's a great point, though, Mike. That's a great point because what Chandler speaks to in this video coming up is a response to the mayor and to all those people from out of town like that guy, Parker Allen, who the first words out of his mouth was Charlie Kirk is burning in hell. This is who the mayor cucked and bowed to.
Yeah.
Demanding that he bend the knee to that, what you just saw.
Well, yeah, exactly. Again, this is supposed to be a Republican city council. They should be standing up to the mob, not going along with them. Giving them the facts, the truth. And if they don't like it, you know what? I don't really care, especially if they're here on H-1B visas primarily, and they're not Americans. All right, I think I've got the right video queued up, and I want to apologize. A lot of these came over without titles on them when I downloaded them, so little confusion there. But hopefully this is the right one here.
All right. Well, first off, quite frankly, Councilman Johnson, I'm not here to ask for your grace. As far as resigning, I'm not resigning. You can vote for the letter tonight. Hope you do. It's going to be worthless. I'm going to be here for another 3 years. Get used to it. Now, to the members of the Indian community, proud Americans that stand before us, as it was said earlier, in a lot of my comments, I just kind of assumed you as Americans, and there is a problem with illegal immigrants and immigrants from all countries And I think we need to have tough conversations. X and other social media platforms is the public square. We don't go out in front of City Hall and walk around in the market anymore and stand up and talk. We go on social media. Some people brought it up earlier. If we're not willing to push the envelope, if we're not willing to even have coarse and rigid conversation about controversial issues, and yeah, sometimes I post stuff just to piss people off to get debate going. I'm an enlisted military guy. I spent 10 years around people that we just piss people off. And you know what? I served with people from every single country in the world. I served with people from continents all around the world. I served with 2 Kenyan guys from rival tribes that told me if they landed back in Kenya, they'd have to fight each other and kill each other. But we were all Americans, and we all loved it, and we were having a great time. So I do understand where that could have been misconstrued for you guys. Any apology on that is going to be outside of these chambers after I have some conversations with Mr. Shaw, because I don't believe in just apologizing because the cameras are on me, and I want it to be genuine if it's going to happen. So I did have a conversation with Mr. Shaw before we came in, and some other leaders of the Indian community. We talked on the phone, and we are going to meet more in person after this. I've committed to that. I've even said I'm willing to have a town hall specifically with the members of the Americans of the Indian heritage community. I'm perfectly fine with that. I accept everything you guys do. I'm proud that you're Americans with me. But at the same time, we're going to have tough conversations about things like illegal immigration. We're going to have tough conversations about things like visa abuse and certain other things. And, you know, one of the things that I wasn't happy about that I saw was other state capitals and even Republicans were flying Indian flags on government buildings. And I voted against flying other nations' flags on our government building. We're American government buildings. If you want to fly Indian flags at India Fest on your house, that's fine. But so there are problems in this country, and I like to have those conversations on X in the public square. Yeah, I'm an elected official, and I'm elected by the people. And quite frankly, as long as I'm not breaking the law, I'll say whatever I damn well please. So as far as the rest of the council, again, go ahead and vote for the letter. I almost want you to. We're going to have some more uncomfortable meetings. We can only grow through discomfort, but now I'm kind of pissed, so I think we're just going to have some uncomfortable meetings for fun. With that, I yield my time.
Thank you. Councilman Johnson, you made the motion.
Yes, Mayor. That's all I needed because.
All right, well said. I think you hit on all the key points there. Again, taking a hard stance on free speech. You know, the speech that needs to be protected is the uncomfortable speech, the uncomfortable conversations. Nobody cares about the things, you know, polite conversations in a civil society. The problem now is that it's shifted where even normally political discourse can't exist anymore because one side goes, the minute they go into offended, suddenly they get violent. They want to go with mob rule. They want silence. They want to shut you down, shut down your opinion, shut down discussion, and just have you removed from society because you're a roadblock to what it is that they want to accomplish. Even what they want to accomplish is something like this, that I feel like the majority of Americans would be in your camp. And that's why they portray you as, you know, some kind of racist xenophobe instead of dealing with the real problem at hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just that most Americans would agree, but most Americans expect that the people we vote to represent us would represent that agreement, and they didn't last night. That's one of the big issues here is you had a Republican city council led by a Republican mayor representing Republican voters completely abdicate the will of the people and give in to the rowdy mob. That's anti-American. America is not run by a mob. We see that in Portland. And guess what? We just saw that in deep red Florida just last night. And this man was held to a struggle session for what he said a moment ago. The city council people wanted to shake him down about saying maybe don't use Twitter. Guess what? Somebody used Twitter and they won the White House election to the presidency 3 elections in a row. 3 elections in a row. He won with Twitter.
But he didn't have any mean tweets, though.
No, he didn't have any mean tweets. But what does that mean? So they're saying they want him to put down the Twitter so that you can't win the way the president won, so that they can continue to box out the will of the American people. That's communism. That's the struggle session. That's the tyranny that we marched against left-wing evil for, and that these people are supposed to be holding the line on it. He's the only one on the city council holding the line. And now they're trying to get him out, and they're going to ask Ron DeSantis to bend the knee to that?
And so, as I said earlier, this was really a well-calculated maneuver by the left. They were kind of using the Indian community as a weapon against me. Like I said, most of the speakers were actually kind of radical left, some of the most radical leftists in our county, actually. And the strategy was the media, the one media source, that's our local liberal media source, took that clip. The one Democrat on the council put it on the agenda to have me removed. They poked and prodded all the right directions. It was impressive. And then obviously the Indian community was just a little upset. And so they fell for it. They came out. But, you know, that's what we're dealing with here with the color revolution and these left-wing Marxists, is that they see a guy who's being effective, who's being a strong conservative. I've done more for the city of Palm Bay in 10 months than councilmen on that dais who have been on it for 6 years. So, and they see that and they know that. So they're like,
yes,
hey, we need to get this guy. We need to slow him down. And so they're doing everything they can to do that. And that's the main reason I refuse to capitulate, because the message that would send, if you have a good conservative who gets in office, and by the way, it wasn't just at the meeting, it was for a whole week I was attacked. I had to come into agreements with the school board, with my job, with everything else. I stepped down from my job for now because there was physical threats from the left that's been forwarded to the Attorney General's office.
Of course.
I've been contacted by other people involved in this, that they receive physical threats, that they're being called racists in the stores because of me. That it's been a week-long buildup to this meeting of left-wing violence and intimidation in our community. And so obviously, if I were to bend the knee to that, they win. And anyone else before me, just probably won't do it. And if they do, then the left knows they can just use the same tactics. So I'm not backing down to these people. And that's why I don't think the governor will move on this. But, you know, I would encourage him not to move on this and not to give the left the victory that they're looking for.
Agreed. And, you know, guys, we can get a mob together too. And when we do it, we're not going to burn down any cities, attack any journalists, or kill anybody. But all of you guys right now watching this, you can find the story. It's going to be up. Is it up on the Gateway Pundit yet? I know there's an article headed there. Right, Rick? So once it's up there, well, sorry, go ahead.
I think that one's the DOD one. It may be. Well, we got that on the line next, and it's all over. Just go to Chandler's X feed at Chandler Langevin,
at Chandler for PB or PB Palm Bay. Yeah, at Chandler for
all right, PB. At Chandler for PB for Palm Bay. Tag Ron DeSantis. Everybody watching right now, if we do that, we can get him looking at this, and that way he doesn't have some aide tell him, oh yeah, this is a bad city council member, we just got to remove him, and he doesn't know what's going on. Because again, I really do think, Ron DeSantis has stood against the woke mob numerous times. I think the only way he's going to sign off on this is somebody tells him to do it, and he doesn't really know the full story. Otherwise, I am sure he would be in your camp. I mean, he loves putting a thumb in their eye anyway. And again, if he knew the reality of the story, I'm 100% sure he'd be on your side. But, this isn't the only time it's happened. There was a story we actually didn't get to a few weeks ago where we had something similar happening in Texas. Indian activists in Texas threaten Texas business with ruin and worse after owner speaks out about H-1B visas. So this all started a few months prior to this, and this happened about 2 weeks ago now. But essentially, this guy originally talked about how the area where he lived there, it's just flooded with people on H-1B visas. It's changing the community's culture. I guess he was driving home from their coffee shop one day, and they were out in the streets celebrating some Indian festival, a religious festival. And his point was, I moved to Texas to be an American. We're here to support America. We shouldn't be shutting down parts of this small town for an Indian festival because they all work for a tech giant down the road on H-1B visas. Well, that was apparently enough to fire them up. They started targeting his coffee shop, putting up fake Yelp reviews, other stuff. And just constant harassment. Believe it or not, they even someone from this group even emailed him, wanted $20,000 to make it all go away. So it even turned into an Indian money scam, as unbelievable as that is. But yeah, this part.
You're right. They would never do that. They would never do that.
No. Yeah, they'd never tell you I wonder if they wanted it in Visa gift cards or iTunes cards too, just to complete just to go full circle. But yeah, this is part of the problem. Like when we leave our borders open, or we allow these large pockets to accumulate of people that refuse to assimilate, then they do band together and work against our American values. So we have to put our foot down and not allow this to happen anymore. No matter who, no matter what ethnic or foreign national group or religious group for that matter, as we're seeing with a lot of the Muslim communities in Dearborn and Minnesota and Epic City in Texas and wherever else. If you're going to move here, you're going to be here. You're here to be an American, or we don't need you. We don't want you. Now, again, it doesn't mean you have to completely ignore your previous culture and everything else doesn't have to disappear, but you better be America first, or we don't need you.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Mike, in respect to, the different factions as well. Like, Ron DeSantis has been under very similar attack in Tallahassee by the same milquetoast rhino Republicans for a while. So people who don't know local state Florida politics, he has been under besiege from the weak section of the right. And these are the same people trying to besiege Chandler. And Ron's either going to bend the knee to them again in that respect, or he's going to stand strong for people who stand strong for him. Because that's part of the message. You're going to send a message to the weak part of the GOP that are trying to undermine him and undermine the Trump agenda.
Well, and that's something we've brought up on here a few times now, that I think, especially as we're watching the left collapse, you're going to see the weak, undocumented Democrat faction of the right try to take up some of that power, try to pretend to be the moderates, that the disaffected Democrats that believe it or not, there's still some people that used to identify in that party that don't want to go with, abject evil, like dancing on Charlie Kirk's grave or some of this other just utter insanity the left's embraced right now. But I do unfortunately think we are going to see a faction of these weak-kneed, yellow-bellied, rhino Republicans try to seize power and try to push back against people that are willing to fight, whether it's Ron DeSantis, Trump, or anyone else around the country. They want things to go back to business as usual. They really want this uniparty deep state that served them well and lined their pockets for the last 30, 50, 60, 70 years. But
we have people like Chandler standing strong, but we also have supporters for him. I don't know if you have the other clip queued up of one of his supporters speaking, who happened to be actually a quote-unquote immigrant political refugee from New York, who came down here to get away from the woke type of struggle session that Chandler was subjected to yesterday. It was one of the last ones I think I sent you on text, but it's on the Twitter. It's on Chandler's Twitter feed. It's like the second one down. There's a clip of this gentleman speaking on behalf of concern for where is our city going? Where is our state of Florida going? If we're supposed to be the bastion of freedom that's left from these pockets of leftist violence, like Portland that you started off showing. And I thought he gave a very compelling account.
Well, I just want to say, normally people don't even come out for the conservative side on this, because they elect all of us to be conservatives and they expect us to do that. So they're like, hey, my guy's representing me. And obviously conservatives, he's going to say it in the video, which is great that he says it. Conservatives are like, they go work, funny concept, and then they've got families at home because they're pro-family. So by the time that you get through all that, you're busy, right? You don't have time to go to a council meeting a lot of times. And so they expect the people they elect to represent them. But I had, I think, almost a dozen, good conservatives. What was funny about that is they all live in Palm Bay. They all voted. Whereas the other people yelling at me, there was a couple, crazies from Palm Bay, but the majority of them were not from Palm Bay. And all the people that came out for me spoke very well and had some really awesome points.
Yeah, I guess it's another pattern. They've always got to import their supporters. They can't find them here. So it's a job Americans just won't do. All right, I think I have that video queued up. And again, I apologize, guys. A lot of the videos, when I downloaded them, for whatever reason, didn't save their titles and instead just have random gibberish. And I didn't realize it until about 30 seconds before we went on air. So my whole original game plan here has been a little messed up the whole time. But let's see if this is the right video.
Was the mob cheering after the mayor demanded that Ron DeSantis deport this American from his elected, democratically elected position. That was the mob cheering. That's what that video was. If you,
well, actually, I want to at least get to your story too, Rick, because I think this is extremely important, and we are almost out of time here. We only got about 5 minutes left.
It
So
goes around kind of full circle because it all involves, the local left-wing violence and their way of trying to silence us and in our community, because we both live in Palm Bay. These are both Palm Bay stories.
yeah. Well, we'll definitely get you both back on again, both to go over whatever results from this. Again, Ron DeSantis better not sign off on this, or I don't know what I'm going to do. But I want to at least get to this because, explosive video. Trojan horse in the fields of education and psychology. Undermine War Secretary Head says objective to remove toxic ideological garbage. So Rick, go ahead. Give us a run on this, and where is this headed?
Yeah. So what happened here is this is a finding that stemmed from the work we did with James O'Keefe and O'Keefe Media Group. The Gateway Pundit just featured this long expose about what we can see from the back doors of academia is the presidents, the professors colluding to undermine not just DeSantis and Trump administrations, but in this case, the Department of War, the War Department's directive that DEI is dead at DOD. Secretary Heth famously said, we are done with that shit. And I caught on video our president saying, not only are we going to keep doing it, and that diversity is important, and he thinks critical race theory is important history to teach people. Well, who are the people he's teaching? Well, his students. Well, who are the students? Well, he says, we're going to compensate for losses on H-1B visa immigration issues with our students we're going to take money from the Space Force. We're going to take DOD funds to take DOD personnel and train them in the things that he thinks are the critical values, which are critical race theory and this absolutely woke, toxic ideology that we now see celebrating political assassinations. Now, where the Gateway Pundit story came in additionally, and I think this is a very new direction on the DEI and the woke ideology side, is as a psychology professor myself, I was telling them that you have an insider threat in the military. One of the biggest insider threats is this woke ideology being laundered through ROTC, through the GI Bill, through training of people. So you can strip all the PowerPoints out of the DOD. Great job. Great job. But that you still have the Trojan horse where you're sending your people out of the DOD into academia. They're going to get indoctrinated. They're going to be forced to chug a giant canteen of anti-American hate and ideology and sent back to the DOD as military leaders, officers to implement policy and lead troops for a country that they're taught to hate. And finally, as a psychology professor, sharing with them what's actually happening. So when you have situations like political assassinations or PTSD or war trauma, where you have military personnel, either active duty or afterwards through the VA, that needs grief counseling or PTSD counseling, the people in psychology are 85 to 90% woke liberal ideologies that were celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So what that's telling you is a different side of a manifestation of that insider threat, which is that how can you treat our soldiers in their most vulnerable, dangerous times when you actually think that they're wrong? You think they're ideologically wrong. You think they're wrong to feel the way that they do. And you're just like the guy that spoke at his thing, which says Charlie Kirk's rotting in hell. So how as a therapist, as a psychologist, the field is 90% that way. Why is the DOD sending funds to the American universities to continue to indoctrinate this? When they stop doing those funds to all these institutions, you will see the leaders of those institutions, they'll stand at alert. They'll be ready to go.
Well, yeah, and that's the only thing that's going to make this stop is we cut off the funding. You know, as you've proven, they're willing to hide it behind whatever they can. They'll rename DEI to something else. They'll come up with new buzzwords, but it's still going to be the same cancer. And at the end of the day, that's what we really need to eliminate, the woke mind virus, as Elon Musk calls it. So we can't have the DOD paying to send our leadership to this continuing education and other things. And again, that's millions of dollars going to these schools. They can't lose that funding, but we can't can't have the woke mind virus be part of that. So we have to cut it off. This is the only way these schools are ever going to stop, because these are dedicated Marxists at the helm in a lot of these places. And until we can clean that out, which is going to take time, what we have to do is fight fire with an effective tool. And that effective tool is money. If we cut off all these government grants, cut off, say, the student loan program. If your school's still teaching this woke ideology, no more student loan program for you. Your students can find ways to fund their own brain damage. But yeah, to your point too, like, we don't need this infecting our military. That's already a huge problem. I think. Hegseth there, I think he's doing what he can. Like, it's going to take time to fix this problem. I do think he's getting kind of an undue amount of grief from some people on the right that want instant results there and don't understand just how big the full scope of this problem is. But the way to fix it now is by cutting off the money and then putting these schools on blast. Make sure everybody knows this is what's still going on there, and that's why we're eliminating their funding, that it isn't about anything else. It's not because Trump doesn't like them. It's because they're continuing to harm the future of our military. So yes, I agree, Rick. Cutting off their money and using this as a vector to do that is a good start. But it's not the only thing we need to do. This problem needs to actually be resolved once and for all.
Yeah. So to touch on that, I was a Navy corpsman for 10 years. I was in the reserves for part of that when I was in the reserves, and now I'm working on going back in the reserves. I was one of the involuntary discharges due to the COVID-19. So I'm going through the executive order now and going back into the reserves. But I'm using the GI Bill to go to school. And in Florida, in a state, I don't even go to FIT. I go to a state college, and it's still inundated in the books, in the stuff. I'm obviously a pretty resilient guy, as you've noticed.
Yeah.
So I know what to look for and things like that. But your average, soldier or sailor, Marine, or airman doesn't necessarily know that, and it really affects them hard. And the military has a huge push to get their soldiers educated. Oh, hold on.
Yes.
Educated. And so there's not just the GI Bill. There's tuition assistance for active duty personnel where they can go to school for free. So you've got junior guys who are 18 to 22 who are just like college students outside of the military. They're young, they're impressionable, and the military is like pushing them to go to these schools and they're getting to go for free on your tax dollar. Or
yes.
You have reservists, National Guardsmen, whatever the case may be, going through the GI Bill, or you have future officers going through the ROTC program. So yes, it does culminate. And then what also is a big deal is that follow-on education, particularly in the officer and the senior NCO Corps, where they say, eventually, if you want to make it past the mid-grade rank, you need to go get your master's degree. Well, then
yes.
Now it doubles down. And so the good dudes are like, dude, I'm getting out of the military. It's been 4 years, 6 years, whatever. I'm not doing this. I'm getting out. And then you're left with these leaders who went on and got the full indoctrination, and it goes all the way to the top. So it is a major issue, and Rick's doing a great job of bringing that point up.
Yeah, and those are the people we don't want. Those are the true believers. That's who needs to be eliminated from their ranks, or we will not have an effective fighting force in the future. Well, gentlemen,
one last thing. So,
sure.
What's the manifestation of that indoctrination of woke ideology? Well, the insider threat, who has it been every time it's found? So first of all, the people that are just got in trouble for celebrating the death of a political assassination of a fellow citizen. One, they're in uniform, tweeting, TikToking. Two, reality winner, the insider threat, the people who engage in the illegal leaks of national security information. They tend to always correspond with this woke ideology. The young woke kid who was releasing national security information on a Discord server for a gaming site. They are, when you go through all of these insider threats, they all are sharing the same pattern of woke indoctrination, either at these institutions or the ideologies that are born and bred at these institutions and filter out into them. And like you said, the big push in the military is to get everybody educated. No. Somebody in the military is pushing that to get them indoctrinated.
And if you look at all the average rank of all those people, especially when the Charlie Kirk stuff came out, majors, lieutenant colonels, some full bird colonels, or on the enlisted side, it was E7s and above almost exclusively. So
agreed. Well, guys, the battle against evil never ends. Any last words of wisdom you want to leave our audience with before we wrap things up for the day?
No, I just really appreciate you having me on there, and for everybody listening to the story. Like you said, if you don't mind giving the governor's office a call, that'd be awesome. You can follow for updates on X at Chandler for PB.
It's at Chandler for PB. Rick, again, thank you. Great job. Both of you. Great work. Again, this is what we need more of, is real fighters. If all of us put our foot down, we refuse to go along with this, that's how we change things. It's time to retake our country, and it's time to put these Marxists back where they belong in the dustbin of history. To our audience, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear, and we'll be back on Monday with even more. Thanks again.